Hell is full of perfect Christians. I died and saw the truth no one dares to preach. I never thought I'd be the one telling this story. Honestly, I used to roll my eyes at people who claimed they saw visions or had near-death experiences. I was a logical Christian, the kind who followed the rules, tithed on time, showed up early for church, and nodded in agreement when the pastor spoke. I was respected, even admired. I had built a life around being a good man. But I died, and everything I thought I knew shattered in an instant. When my heart stopped, I expected peace. Maybe a tunnel of light. Maybe angels singing at the very least, something comforting. Instead, I felt weight, cold, suffocating. Inescapable weight, and before I could understand where I was, I realized the most horrifying truth I've ever known. I wasn't alone, and the people around me weren't murderers or atheists or evil strangers. They were people like me, church leaders, worship singers, deacons, smiling, hand-raising, well-dressed, spirit-filled believers, and they were screaming. I don't say this to scare you. I say it because I saw it. I was there. I was one of them. And if you'll stay with me, really stay, I'm going to tell you the truth that changed everything. Because hell is full of perfect Christians, and I was almost one of them forever. Part 1. The sudden death of a good Christian. It happened on a Tuesday. There was nothing special about the day. The sky wasn't darker. There was no warning, no sign, no strange dream the night before. It was just another busy weekday filled with the usual concerns. Emails, bills, errands, pretending to listen during staff meetings, nodding in church small group. The night before, even though my mind was elsewhere. On that particular afternoon, I was standing in the kitchen arguing with my wife, Sarah. It wasn't about anything important. Money, probably. It usually was. Something about the new car, or the credit card bill, or how I'd been short with her in front of the kids again. I remember feeling irritated. No, more than irritated. Angry. Because beneath all my well-practiced calm and charm, I was a man who needed to be in control. I had this quiet obsession with how we looked, to neighbors, to coworkers, to the people at church. We needed to be the good couple, the godly marriage, the example. And anytime Sarah poked a hole in that image, even gently, it felt like an attack. I felt that tightness in my chest, sharp but heavy. I thought it was just stress, just another flare-up from a long week. I gripped the edge of the counter and told her the last words I would ever speak with breath in my lungs. Just be quiet. That was it. Not I love you. Not I'm sorry. Just that. I remember the sound of the glass I was holding slipping from my hand and shattering on the tile. My knees buckled. The floor rushed up at me. Then everything slowed down. I could see her face above me, terrified, screaming. But I couldn't hear her. Everything faded, like sound being sucked out of the room. I tried to speak, tried to say something, but my mouth wouldn't move. I was already going. I was already gone. And then I was looking down at myself. I didn't feel pain anymore, not the physical kind. I felt detached, floating, maybe. It's the only word that fits. I saw Sarah on her knees over my body, her hands trembling as she dialed 911. She was sobbing, begging me to breathe, shaking me, yelling my name. I felt sorry for her. I did, but even that emotion was distant, like I was watching a scene from someone else's life. That was me down there on the kitchen floor. The man in the fitted dress shirt lying in a pool of shattered glass and silence. And for a moment, just one, I thought, this is it. I'm going up. I'd lived a good life, a clean life, at least on the outside. I said all the right things. I went to church. I volunteered. I tithed. I prayed when people asked me to. I kept my sins small and my image shiny. I thought that was enough. I thought I was enough. I thought I was enough. But then I felt it. Not a rising, but a pulling downward. Heavy. Like something had wrapped itself around my soul and was dragging me deep into the ground. My kitchen, my wife, the light, all of it disappeared in an instant, gone like a light switch flipped off. And I began to fall. Slowly, terribly, not like skydiving, not a rush of wind and thrill. It was more like sinking in thick, black water. Everything was silent. Everything was dark. And it wasn't just dark. It was alive, heavy, a darkness that pressed in from every direction. Not just around me, but inside me. I had died, but what I saw next was worse than death, because I was about to learn the truth. A truth I never wanted to face. The truth that my entire Christian life was a beautifully polished lie, and the pit I was falling into was full of others just like me. Part 2. The waiting room of regret. I landed without landing. There was no thud, no crash, just a stop. I was standing, or maybe just existing in something that felt like a room but had no walls. The air, or whatever passed for air, was hot, but not like summer or fire. It was dry, stale, like an attic that had been sealed shut for centuries. The kind of heat that makes you thirsty even though you don't have a body anymore. It was disorienting. I had no weight, no shape, but I felt every inch of that place pressing against what was left of me. And then the smell hit me. It was the smell of rot, of decay, like meat left out in the sun, like blood and rust and mold. It clung to me, soaked into me. I wanted to gag, but I couldn't. I had no throat, no lungs, just a soul, and my soul was choking. The worst part wasn't the smell. It was the sound. It wasn't screaming, at least not at first. It was weeping, a slow, constant, hopeless sobbing that came from everywhere and nowhere, all at once. Not one voice, but thousands, millions maybe, all of them weeping the same way, with that hollow sound that only comes from realizing it's too late. I opened my mouth to speak, to ask where I was, to call out to someone, anyone, but my voice was swallowed by the darkness the moment it left me. I could barely hear it myself, a whisper in a void that didn't care I was there. And that's when I saw him. A man, or something shaped like a man, hunched over, curled up like a child on the floor. That wasn't a floor. His back to me, his shoulders shaking with sobs. The closer I got, the more I recognized him. That sobbing, that despair. It was familiar. It is the sound of someone who believed their whole life had meant something, only to discover it hadn't. I got close enough to see his face, and I froze. It was Mr. Henderson, my Sunday school teacher, the man who taught me the memory verses, the one who always had a kind word, who wore the same brown suit every week, who we all respected, the man we called a pillar in our church. His face was soaked in dark tears, his eyes wide but empty, and when he looked at me, I didn't hear a voice. I just knew. I knew what he was thinking. He wasn't supposed to be here either. Then he pointed, and I turned, and I saw them. Dozens. Hundreds. More than I could count. Faces I knew. Faces I recognized from my church, from the neighborhood, from the pews we all sat in. All of them trapped in the same place. Not chained, not screaming, not torn by fire or brimstone. Just stuck. Weeping, broken, like people who had finally taken off their Sunday masks and were left only with what was real. This wasn't a pit of monsters. It was a waiting room for the proud, a holding cell for those who looked clean on the outside, but inside were full of hidden rot. The choir director, the deacon, the couple who always smiled from the front row, people I thought had it all together, people I admired. They were here, and I was with them. Part 3. The Hypocrisy Reveal. Then it started. Not slowly, not like a thought sneaking in. It was immediate, like a floodgate opening in my mind. My life began to play in front of me, not like a movie, but like I was there, living it all again. But from the outside, seeing it clearly for the first time. I saw myself leaving church on a Sunday afternoon, complaining in the car about how the pastor talked too much about helping the poor. I saw Sarah trying to engage me, trying to share something deep, and me brushing her off because I had work to think about. I saw myself laughing at crude jokes at the office, gossiping about people at church, silently judging the new family who didn't dress right, didn't talk right, didn't act like us. I saw it all. And every time I thought, that wasn't so bad, another memory hit me, sharper, deeper. The time I saw a homeless man outside a coffee shop and crossed the street. Not because I was afraid, but because I was disgusted. The time I felt a little thrill when a coworker failed, because it made me look better. The way I treated Sarah, not physically abusive, but emotionally absent, critical, cold. I silenced her, not with violence, but with 1,000 dismissive words, 1,000 sighs and eye rolls and just be quiets. Each memory burned, but not like fire. It was shame, thick, choking, inescapable. It wasn't an attack from outside. It was the weight of my own truth. And as I stood there, reliving every moment I had justified, every secret thought I'd excused, I understood something horrifying. This wasn't judgment from God. This was the natural consequence of who I had been. My good works weren't burning. They were rotting, because they were never done for Him. They were done for me, for my image, for the approval, for the applause. I had spent my life polishing the outside of a tomb, and now the inside was laid bare. And the people around me, the ones I'd recognized, they were the same. Perfect on the outside, hollow on the inside. We were the ones Jesus warned about. The whitewashed tombs, the Pharisees, the ones who said the right words but never knew the God they claimed to serve. I wanted to scream, not in fear, but in regret. I wanted to go back to undo, to beg for one more day. But time didn't exist here. There was no next, no second chance. Only the echo of everything I had chosen. And that echo was deafening. Part 4. Face to face with the accuser. I felt it before I saw it. A presence. Ancient. Heavy. Not loud. Not fast. Just there. Watching. It moved like smoke but felt like stone. And it carried a hatred. So pure, it was almost elegant. It didn't rush. It didn't need to. It knew it had time. It had me. Then it spoke. Not with a mouth. Not in a voice. It was like oil being poured into my thoughts, thick and slow, coating everything. And it said my name. Mark. It knew me. Every part of me. I didn't need to introduce myself or explain why I was there. It knew my story better than I did. It had watched me live it. And then it said the words I will never forget. So the good man has arrived. I wanted to fight it, to scream, to say I went to church. I gave money. I prayed. I did everything right. But the truth was like lead in my throat. I couldn't lie in that place. I couldn't spin the story in my favor. Because the one standing before me wasn't fooled by performances. It had seen the show 1,000 times. I was just another actor caught when the curtain fell. The presence circled me slowly, dragging behind it a silence that was louder than any scream. And then it showed me things, not new things, my moments, my secrets. The arguments with Sarah. The resentment I never voiced, but always carried. The pride I wore like armor. The cold satisfaction I felt when others stumbled. Every Christian thing I did for attention, for status, for reputation. The demon didn't even need to add lies. The truth was damning enough. You followed me so well. The whisper dripped with mockery. It wasn't angry, it was triumphant. You sang the songs but never meant them. You prayed the prayers but never surrendered. You gave the money but held back your heart. You loved the praise of men more than the presence of God. You did it all for you, and now you are mine. I wanted to scream, to fight, to run, but there was nowhere to go. My soul was naked, exposed, and worse than that. It was agreeing with everything I heard, because it was true, all of it. I saw myself again through its eyes, and I hated what I saw. A man who had fooled the world but never fooled God. A man who had worn the name of Jesus like a badge but never carried his cross. The demon didn't torment me with fire. It didn't need to. It tormented me with memory, with clarity. It made me see the weight of my own choices, not the ones I regretted, the ones I never even noticed, the ones I thought were good enough. And then it leaned close, and for the first time I felt fear, not of pain, of permanence. I had become the man I never wanted to be, and there was no undoing it. "This is the waiting room," it whispered, "but your judgment has not yet begun." Then everything fell away again. Part 5. The realization of eternal separation. I was alone now. No more sobbing souls. No familiar faces. Just me and the dark. At first, it felt like a kind of relief. No voices, no accusations, no memories stabbing me over and over. But then the silence turned. It wasn't peace, it was emptiness. Hollow, cold. A kind of cold that didn't touch the skin but went deeper into whatever was left of me. It wasn't the cold of winter, it was the cold of being forgotten. And in that moment the horror became real. God wasn't there. Not hidden. Not far. Absent. There was no whisper of comfort. No trace of his presence. No grace in the air. No light in the distance. For the first time in my existence, I was fully and truly without him. And I realized with a sinking terror that this was what I had chosen. Every time I ignored his voice, every time I prioritized my image over his truth, every time I said amen with my lips and leave me alone with my life, I was building this place for myself, brick by brick, choice by choice. I thought I was safe because I was good, but I had never been saved. And now, I was alone, utterly. Time didn't move. There were no minutes, no days, no years. Just this forbearance, this weight, and it crushed me. I tried to pray. I tried to say the words I had memorized so long ago. Our Father. But they didn't work. They had no power here. They were hollow. Not because God was weak, but because I had never meant them. They were just sounds I had dressed up as faith. I wanted to stop existing, to disappear, but I couldn't. I had no body to die again. Just awareness, just memory, just regret. That was the worst part. Not the fire, not the demon, not even the cold. It was the knowing that I had missed it, that I had walked past grace every day of my life, that the cross was inches from my heart, but I never let it in, that Jesus had stood at the door and knocked, and I had turned up the music of my own self-righteousness to drown him out. I wasn't in hell because God sent me there. I was in hell because I refused to be with him, and now I never would be. Part 6. The unexpected light. Just when I believed the silence would crush me, something changed. It was small at first, a flicker, a glimmer in the distance, so faint I thought it was my mind playing tricks on me. If I even had a mind anymore, it wasn't part of the darkness. It didn't belong here. It was clean. Soft, pure. Light, not a spotlight, not a beam. It was more like the first hint of sunrise before the sun shows itself. Gentle, steady, impossibly real. And then I heard it. A voice. Not from the void, not from the darkness, not like the demon. This voice didn't crawl. It didn't accuse. It called. Mark, my name. Not barked, not yelled, spoken, known. It wasn't a word, it was a touch. A hand on the shoulder of my soul. A breath that moved through every dead corner of me. I flinched, not from fear, from something deeper. Shame, because I knew that voice. I had heard it before, many times. In childhood prayers, in quiet moments I dismissed, in the tears of my wife. It was him, the one I'd sung about, the one I claimed to love. Jesus. I couldn't see him clearly at first. He wasn't glowing in some exaggerated way. He wasn't terrifying. He was bright. Yes, but it wasn't just light. It was life. His presence made the darkness recoil. The ground beneath me trembled. The air hissed as if the whole place was furious. He had come, and I was terrified. Not of him, of myself. I tried to hide. I tried to shrink into the nothing, to disappear into the cold and filth. Because I saw me now clearly. I saw what I was in the presence of perfect holiness. A shadow, a liar, a fraud. I didn't want him to look at me. I didn't want him to touch me. I didn't want his eyes to see what I had become. But he didn't leave. He came closer. His hand reached toward me, and I saw the scar, the hole, not a wound, a mark of love. It didn't bleed. It shone, the very scar I had sung about, with a mouth full of pride and a heart full of nothing. I turned my face. "You don't want me," I said, or thought, or whispered. "I'm foul. I belong here." He said nothing. He only extended his hand. Part of me still wanted to run. The other part, the broken part, wanted to believe. I didn't lift my hand. I couldn't. It was too heavy, weighed down by everything I had chosen. Then he spoke again. "Look at me." And I did. I forced my gaze away from the shame, away from the guilt, away from myself. And I saw him. Not a preacher, not an idea, not a storybook figure. Jesus, the King. And he was crying. For me, Part 7, the rescue from the pit. His tears weren't manipulative. They weren't like mine, selfish, desperate. His tears were clean. They fell from a place of unthinkable love. He wasn't crying because I was disgusting. He was crying because I had been lost. He had watched me waste my life in religious performance while he stood just outside the door. And I had never let him in. I stopped resisting. I didn't reach. I simply let go of my justification, of my goodness. I stopped trying to prove I was worth saving. And the moment I did, he moved. His hand touched mine. The entire place convulsed. The darkness screamed. It wasn't a sound, it was a violent collapse. Like the rules of hell had been broken. The worms that had clung to me shrieked and vanished. The burning shame that had wrapped itself around my soul like armor cracked and crumbled. I felt fire, but it wasn't like before. This fire didn't torture, it purified. It burned the false self I had built. And I let it burn. I welcomed the pain, because for the first time in my existence, it was doing something beautiful. It was cleaning me. I screamed, not in terror, but release. It felt like every piece of my soul was being torn apart and made whole at the same time. The heaviness left, the rot melted, the cold lifted. And all that remained was me. Raw, new, alive. He held my hand through it all. Never flinching, never letting go. And when the light had done its work, he lifted me. We rose. We didn't fly. We didn't climb. We were simply carried. And below us, pit faded. The sounds dimmed. The horror melted into silence. And I saw all of it. The faces, still trapped, still clinging, still blind. They hadn't looked up. They hadn't surrendered. They were still trying to defend themselves in a place where defenses don't work. Why not them? I asked through tears. He answered with sorrow, I am here for all who call, but many will not look, many will not let go. I wept for them, for Mr. Henderson, for the choir director, for the smiles I had trusted, and the voices I had followed. They weren't there because they were bad. They were there because they never looked. Part 8. A second chance, a new life. We kept rising through the void, into warmth, into light I had no words for. And then he turned to me. You must go back. My heart stopped again. Back. Back to what? I didn't want to go. Not after what I had seen. Not after him. I wanted to stay. I wanted to be where he was. Forever. Please, I begged, don't send me back. He held my gaze. His voice was full of command and compassion. They need to know. You've seen the truth. Now tell them. The truth, that hell is full of perfect Christians. That Sunday suits and tidy devotions mean nothing without love. That judgment isn't waiting. It's already here. That playing church is the most dangerous game anyone can play. Tell them I am real. Tell them I am waiting. Tell them I am not a concept to admire. I am a savior to surrender to. He placed his scarred hand on my chest, the same place where my heart had failed. And then I fell, back through the void, back through the dark, back to the kitchen, to pain, to flesh, to the broken body of the man I had once been, to the woman I had silenced, to the life I had wasted, to the mission I now carried. I came back gasping, crying, alive, and for the first time, truly awake. They thought the heart attack was the miracle. But the real miracle was mercy. And now I'm telling you, not as a preacher, not as a theologian, as a man who died and saw and was pulled from the fire. Not because I was good, but because I finally looked. Conclusion. If you've heard anything I've said, really heard it, then please don't brush this off as just another emotional story on the internet. This isn't content. This isn't a message to get views or attention. This is a warning, a rescue lifeline being thrown across eternity to wherever you are sitting right now. I know what it's like to believe you're safe because you're respected. I know what it's like to go to church, say all the right things, and still have a heart that's cold, closed, and proud. I know what it's like to be the man who everyone admires while carrying around a soul that has never truly surrendered. And I know what it's like to stand in front of Jesus, the real Jesus, not the one from sermons or stained glass, but the living Savior, and feel the weight of everything you thought was good crumble in the presence of actual holiness. I saw what waits for people like me. I stood in it. I was one of them, and I'm only here now because he pulled me out. You can be in church every Sunday, serve on every team, lead a Bible study, give to missions, and still be headed straight for hell. You can be married, faithful, generous, and completely lost. Because the question is not, did you act like a Christian? The question is, did you know him? Do you know him? Not know about him? Not know the verses? Not know the rules? Do you know the man with the scarred hands? Have you looked at him? Not with your religious eyes, not with your polished reputation, but with your broken soul. Because that's what he wants. Not your cleaned up self, not your record, just you, the real you, the one who doesn't have it all together, the one who's tired of pretending, the one who knows deep down that your image won't survive the fire. He already sees you, he already knows, and he's still reaching. So stop performing, stop running, stop hiding behind good deeds. Stop trying to prove you're good enough. You're not. And that's the point. He doesn't want your performance. He wants your surrender. He wants your honesty. He wants you to finally say, I can't do it. I'm not enough. And then look, just look. He's right there. This story is not about fear. It's about truth. It's about grace. So scandalous that it dares to enter the very gates of hell, to reach one proud man. It's about love that bleeds, that waits, that weeps. He sent me back for you. Not to impress you, to beg you. Look at him, let go of everything else. And